and welcome to episode 16 of Attention Engineer. I'm Laura Kidd, a Bristol-based music producer, songwriter and independent solo artist making music as Penfriend. In this noisy world, the gift of someone's attention is priceless, so thank you for joining me on my mission to go deeper, past the headlines and the hearsay, to have the conversations I've always hoped for with some of the artists I admire the most. This podcast is supported by Arts Council England and the National Lottery, and powered by the Correspondence Club. More on that in a bit. Hello you, and thank you for joining me for episode Sweet 16 of Attention Engineer. It's anniversary week in my house, both wedding and album, which is an entirely accidental coincidence. Tim and I are celebrating our second wedding anniversary, which is the cotton one, so I'm going to be presenting him with a vintage Transformers t-shirt and a card with Doc Cotton on the front, and I have to whisper in case he's listening outside the door. I don't think he's there. I'm feeling pretty smug about my choices, and it's all thanks to some very late night Etsy scrolling. Thank you, Etsy. I'm also celebrating one whole decade of having my solo music out in the world in the form of debut She Makes War album, Disarm. 10 years, what? I'm celebrating this milestone with a very special offer. I'm making a limited number of signed copies of Disarm available for free, and you just have to pay for postage. I've also put together a 25-track Demos and Rarities CD, a real treasure trove of stuff I've never shared before that tells the story of my journey towards making that first album. As well as album demos, it includes 7 things that you definitely haven't heard before, and at least 2 that you might find very surprising. You can claim your Disarm birthday goodies by visiting penfriend.rocks/disarm deal, DISARMDEAL. You can check the show notes page for a link if that's easier. So yeah, 10 years. My other news this week is that I've decided that this is the final episode of Series 1 of Attention Engineer. I'm going to be taking 1 month off podcasting so that I can finish the Penfriend album. But don't be sad. I've already started recording conversations for Series 2, and I'll be back on Wednesday the 7th of October. Onwards now to today's guests. Nova twins are bassist Georgia South and guitarist and vocalist Amy Love. Fast becoming trailblazers in their own right, Nova twins use their platform to champion inclusivity and diversity with a high-octane, genre-warping approach, one that is present in every song they write and every performance they deliver. Turning heads in all of their endeavours, the duo creates a remarkable depth of sound via a myriad of bass and guitar pedals, a secret recipe they've tweaked and refined over the years, while dogmatically avoiding any synthesizers in the process. Innovative in not only their musical output, but in every element of what they do as artists, from designing and making their own outfits for all photoshoots and stage wear, to the art direction of their music videos. The band are, above all, strong, independent and inspiring women of colour. Their modus operandi is to take socio-political experiences from their day-to-day and turn it into something their fans can get lost in. I met Amy and Georgia backstage at Siren Calling Festival in London last summer. I'd been hearing their name around for ages and really liked their music, and I was just really struck by how friendly they were. So when I was thinking up guests for this podcast, they were high on the list. I'm so glad we got to have this conversation. Let's get started. Thank you so much for joining me today, Nova twins.
Hi, thanks for having us.
Well, you're very welcome. Thank you. I wanted to start out just by saying a massive congratulations for getting your brilliant debut album out into the world. That is no small thing. And you've been together for a while, so how does it feel finally having this album out in the world?
It's like a relief, I think, and it almost feels like you start again, because we obviously spent a long time being a band doing loads of shows, loads of festivals. That's what we just love to do. And we never really thought about the physical side of things. We released an EP, then released another one, but we didn't think album until it was quite a few years down the line, wasn't it?
Yeah, and when it happened, as you said, we didn't really pre-plan it. It felt, you didn't realise how it would feel to release an album. And I think we felt so it sounds cheesy to feel like we're so proud of ourselves, but we did, because we didn't know that was the feeling of releasing a body of work. We saw loads of people do it, but we just didn't realise, how momentum.
I know what you're saying, because it does often feel like with albums, especially when you're like a smaller band, we were like, well, we're going to release this album, and you kind of set your goals so high that you think, well, what's going to happen? So let's not release an album and just release EPs. But then it was like, it didn't matter. I think we just had this album for the people who have been supporting us, been following us, and we just wanted to kind of, it was like a landmark.
It did feel like a landmark. That was probably the word I was trying to look for.
We were really proud of it. It was nice.
Well, you should be. It's a big thing to put something like that together, especially the first one, I think. For me, it was a real slog to get to the first record I ever made.
It's a slog.
It is a slog.
And then once you've done it, do you feel now like, oh, we should do another one then? Do you feel like that? Or is it? Have you started thinking differently about it?
Yeah. Now you're just like in album world, I guess, because then you're like second album, third album. So during lockdown, we've just been like writing album 2 and like just experimenting with loads of different sounds and vibes, and it's just been fun to, because you do have this kind of landmark of album 1, now you feel like you can just even more explore and just see where the music takes you, because you're just going on this journey now.
There's something really brilliant about putting out shorter pieces of work, I think, especially in this day and age when we can do anything and you can reach people in all different ways. So would you say that before you released this album, you were thinking in terms of songs, maybe, and now has that changed in any way?
Well, I think before we just thought, let's put out singles, EPs. We were quite just like short and sweet, but not, I think we just kind of just did what we felt was right at the time. It wasn't like a pre-thought plan and like in this year we're going to do an album. It was very much just like, oh, let's just put a single out, let's put an EP out, see what happens. And then it just fell onto this album. But now doing the album, we're more into like making albums because it was fun and it does feel even that more special.
And I think especially as independent artists, you do have the freedom and you just have all the time, not the time in the world, but you just have the space to create, make mistakes, start over, do it again, try this, try that. And that's the fun of it. We didn't have people saying, right, well, you got this album cycle, this EP cycle, blah, blah, blah. You must release it this time. We just done things when we wanted to do, and it was organic and it was all part of our kind of growing process. So I think you just learn everything you learn from album 1. Hopefully you bring on to album 2 and then so on, you know.
Definitely. Well, I think that what I've noticed is that when artists concentrate more on singles and EPs and stuff, it can actually mean that the quality is generally better, because in the old days, not to harp on too much about that, if you were only making albums, then there's maybe quite a lot of filler on there, and you can't have filler if you're putting out singles and EPs and things, because no one wants to listen to filler. They'll just skip on to the next thing. So I just think it's really interesting how people approach stuff, and I appreciate what you're saying about when there isn't someone going, come on, where's the next thing? That can be very disappointing in some ways. I'm sure you probably also feel that. But also it is that freedom thing of like, well, we can make anything and it should be the best thing we can make, not let's get this thing finished by Friday.
Oh yeah, we loved it. We were just like free reign to make an album in our own time. We didn't have the rush to make the first album. We just made it, and
because of Corona, we don't have the rush to make.
I know the second album's been a breeze. We're just like, let's just write, let's sunbathe, let's write. It's like...
That brings me to my next thing, which is you've been really busy in lockdown. So I didn't realise you've been writing so much, but you've definitely been doing a lot of online stuff as well and using your platform in interesting ways. Would you want to tell us about that?
Yeah, we've been, I think first of all in lockdown, it was like reintroducing yourself to your audience, because it was very much for us, it was more like a physical experience at the live shows. And obviously we did have Instagram, we have Facebook and stuff, but for us everything was about connecting with fans at the live show. So it was a nice juxtaposition to really kind of get to know our audience and what they do and what they're about. And we started off by doing these challenges where we would do like a riff challenge or like a makeup challenge or an art challenge. And then we realized how creative our actual fan base are. They're artists themselves in different aspects,
to like the
ways.
Highest standard. It was like ridiculous. It was so sick. We're just like amazed. And it helped us through lockdown as well, because when we did the challenges, we're kind of just a bit like, oh, what are we going to do? Or the tour's been cancelled and the festival's been cancelled. So it was really just a fun way all round for us to, you know, create the challenge videos and then to see all this amazing content come back. So it just felt like this great community, and I feel like everyone just felt like a safe place to just be in lockdown but still not feel like they're going crazy because they are stuck inside.
And then we had obviously like the BLM movement that really kind of inspired us to just re-educate and like really use our platform for the kind of injustice that was happening around the world. And I think for us, it was just an eye-opener, because we always felt like, yes, we are two Black women doing like essentially punk rock music, and we always knew that the space was not that open to diversify itself. And we mentioned it in our previous articles, but we was talking how we felt a little bit silenced. The more further along we'd get, the more we felt like, well, people just want us to be just a band and not really talk about politics. But this movement really kind of inspired us just to be like, just to speak out and open up just what we really think, say what we're really thinking. And I think it's been really great for us just to feel that people have been our allies, that other like-minded people have had the same experiences as us, and you suddenly start to feel that you're not going crazy, and that, you know, it is a real issue, you know, and it's no matter how small or how big, it's all really relevant. And I think we're just trying to use our space to diversify our area and to help that move along and progress.
Well, that makes such a massive difference doing that. And there will always be someone who will pipe up and go, stick to the music, which I always find so fucking frustrating, because I'm a person with lots of interests, and I hope to try and live a rounded and interesting life. So that's going to come out in my music. And I'm a white person, right? So I could, you know, my life's fucking easy in so many respects. And so why on earth would someone not put their thoughts and feelings and their truth into their music? That's insane, you know. Doesn't make any sense.
Exactly.
But there will always be that person who pops up. I read an interview with you recently where you talked about creating your own platform and using it responsibly. And that made me so happy, because that's what I think is what's kind of lacking when people don't take that responsibility as musicians. Because as musicians, we're trying to get people to look at our stuff, listen to our stuff, you know, listen to us, the things that we write, things we say online. And so to sort of devolve responsibility to someone else for that doesn't make any sense to me, because you're trying to get people's attention. You know,
I think they're just afraid, and it's just so strange, because it's like all these kind of punk bands, what are you afraid of? They're afraid of standing out to a human right issue, but you're afraid that maybe your followers will, I don't know, not come to your shows anymore. But do you really want to keep that company anyway, or do you actually want to, you know, use your platform for the better good, not just to like wait for this whole movement to pass and then go back to promoting your things? It was like the strangest thing. I think the most weirdest thing about it all was seeing how different people use their platform and for what reasons. And it was quite telling just seeing who was who. It was a very transparent time, I thought.
Yeah, it was a big eye-opener for us.
It's interesting if a punk band's worrying about what people think of them, because that's not really very punk, is it?
Exactly.
No. And exactly what you said, is like, is that the company you want to keep? Then if you don't want to say anything, there's only one reason why you wouldn't want to say anything, because you know there's other people who have opposing views to you, which means you're protecting, you know, their thought process. So without even wanting to try and address the issue, and it's very telling.
Who do you want coming to your shows?
Yeah, you'd think you'd want people to know that you're not a racist.
If people unfollowed us for talking out about it, I don't care, because I don't want them to come to our shows and be a Nova fan. So it doesn't really matter.
Good for you. And the Voices for the Unheard show, is that something that's going to keep going? So you're doing a third one tomorrow, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, on Thursday we've got Melanie Faye on there and Divinity Rocks, who are literally so incredible, like
top of their game,
the
man.
top royalty queens of bass and guitar. They're literally ridiculous. So just super excited to talk to them.
It's quite an honour actually, because they're so both.
I know, like
we've got new wave and then like old school, who's just like legend.
Yeah, like Divinity Rocks inspired me to like play bass, because she played in Beyonce's band for years. So that's where I discovered her, and seeing like a black woman on the bass guitar rocking out up there, I was actually just like, wow. It was completely like game changer for me.
And you've done 2 other episodes, haven't you? So who have you had on so far?
So first episode was Connie Constant, Shingai,
Sophie
K. Then we've had Loathe, Death Tour, and Fuck You Pay Us. That was episode number 2. And yeah, this episode we got Melanie Faye and Divinity Rocks. Yeah. So like a whole range of different genres and artists. So it's been so like interesting to chat to everyone about their different journeys and experiences.
For anyone who's listening and is like, these women are very cool and interesting, but who on earth are they? Because I sort of skipped the first question, which is who and what is Nova Twins?
So, yes, we're Nova Twins. We're a band or a duo. Yeah, I play guitar and vocals.
I play bass, and then we're joined by a drummer live. And I guess it's like a mixture of like rock, punk, hip hop. It sounds electronic, but we do it all on like pedal boards and stuff. There's no like backing track or laptop or anything. It's completely done live and manually. And yeah, it's just like, it's kind of like rave, rock, punk, like very a mix with a splash of like 90s R&B too.
And visuals are important to you, it seems like. So your videos and your imagery and the way that you dress and present yourself, is there a mission within all of that, within the music and the visuals and everything?
I think it was just something that evolved kind of quite naturally. I think we first started out and we focused on just writing the music. And then it was very much the music inspired the visual kind of thing, and it naturally just progressed. Like we just started sewing things onto our outfits because we just felt like what we were wearing didn't quite match up to what we wanted to portray. Yeah. And then we just got better at sewing, and then the sewing turned into set design, and set design turned into spraying a car, and then it just naturally progressed. And I think it's something that we're just naturally into as quite, I guess, arty people anyway.
I think we're quite visual, as you said. Like when we write songs, especially for Taxi, we had the video in mind as we wrote the song, because we love like action movies and we love like fantasy, and for us it was like it becomes the song with the visual. It's very like comes hand in hand.
Well, that video is amazing. You basically starred in your own action movie in that video.
It was fun. It was so fun.
It looks amazing. I was watching it going, what? It's so great.
Massive shout out to Harry Lindley, because he did all like the VR effects, made us like fly through the air.
Oh, I just thought you were doing that yourselves, no?
Oh no, we did do some stuff. He made sure we were bruised and battered on set.
Yeah.
You've got to feel like you've done something, don't you?
Yeah, he made us jump extra high.
So cool. And there's a video, I can't remember the name of the song for it because I'm terrible with names of songs, but the one where you're in the swimming pool and you look amazing and beautiful and strong and all these great things that you want women to look like in music videos, or like I want women to look like in music videos, but they also look like they're going to fuck you up. It's like, yes.
Oh, I'm glad that came across.
Oh, so that was intentional. You just would just.
To be fair, we were probably pissed off because it was so cold as well. That swimming pool was like at night time, freezing, and we're literally like cats. We like do not like the water as well.
There's a point in the video where you can see George's lips quiver.
I know, we're shivering. It's so cold. We were just like, we want to get out.
But it added to the kind of craziness, like
it's great. I feel like that when I listen to your music, but I don't know if I would feel it as much if I hadn't watched so many of your videos as well. But when I listen to the album especially, I just kind of want to join in screaming and getting all of my frustration and anger at everything out. And I think that's why I find your album so addictive, because it's not like I'm so angry every day or anything, but it's I don't know, it's just something, it's really like hypnotic, and I love it. I just love it. It's so brilliant. And it's like, it just sums up this brilliant energy, I think.
I think that's what we wanted people to feel, just feel this kind of like energy and outlet, and how we feel when we perform on stage and at festivals. That's how the energy needed to come across on the record, because that's how we feel when we play it and how we feel when we listen to it and wrote it. So we're glad that you kind of got that from it as well. Yeah,
and I'm really interested to know what your favourite pedals are, because there's a lot of very delicious sounds on that record, and I'm not trying to get to all of your secrets or anything, but I'd love to know. Yeah, I'd love to know. So what are your favourite pedal? They're like, no, we don't want to talk about that.
Well, in terms of like sound, we love like distortion. Obviously, goes without saying, obvious.
We
don't go into pedals, but there's a lot of pedals on there, and we love combining them.
Yeah.
We play around with like split amps
cool.
on stage.
We're very vague. Basically, we just don't say.
I love that though.
People understand what it sounds like. We're just being like, well.
Oh no.
Yeah, we're very weird about pedals. We like tape them all up and like spray them so no one can see them.
Oh, that's good.
And made me tape those as well, because I'm a bit more neurotic about it.
I like that. That's brilliant. So let's talk about that. The reasoning for that then is that about. You've worked hard to create a sound and you don't want anyone to basically try and rip it off, essentially.
Yeah, and that sounds so savage, but like There was a time when, you know, all the pedals were on show and people used to run up on stage and take pictures of it and be like, I'm going to post it all online.
Yeah,
I feel like it's so rude.
It is rude.
Like, I worked really hard for that. And like, we've worked hard to build this sound. So you can't just run up on stage, take pictures of it. So then, yeah, the tape came out and we just taped it up.
And also it's a part of some of the mystery because I think it's quite nice. People were like, oh, like, where's that coming from? What's that sound coming from? And then they realise it's from obviously the bass or, you know, a guitar or a drum pad or something. And then they're like, how? And sometimes it's quite nice just to leave it as a little mystery and then people can use their imagination. And it's quite fun as well, you know.
People get so annoyed with us because they're just like, just say it. It's not even that big a deal. And it's like,
But it is. You've created something. I love that so much. I recorded some drums for one of my records in a studio owned by one of the members of Portishead. And there was a proviso of using it that you don't take any pictures of the gear because they don't want everyone to know what gear they use either. And because that's their sound.
Yeah, it's an element of surprise.
it's fair enough because you do work hard to create this thing and then, you know.
Yeah, totally. Oh, I'm glad I asked that question because it led to something much more interesting than you going, oh, like this overdrive.
I know we sound like really paranoid.
No, it's good. I think it's funny, like you see it so much online as well. There'll be someone who's drawn this amazing picture and someone goes, oh, what pencil did you use? Like they'll be able to recreate this amazing thing with if they get the right pencil. But it's one of those things, isn't it? What are you most proud of creating so far? And how did that thing come into being? It could be a song, a video, or a specific thing.
Proud of creating.
I was going to say, personally, the Devil's face flat that we transformed.
Oh, yeah, that was a moment.
It was such hard work in terms of, like, we took on this project where you had a connection where you managed to get us a flat that was basically being renovated. So it just looked really, like, messed up.
It was before they were about to redecorate
it.
Okay.
And someone's moved out of it, they bought it. So it kind of looked like this kind of almost like a squat kind of thing.
All the floors had been stripped, you know, the wallpaper was peeling off, like...
Yeah, it was, you know, it had a character. It was really cool, but, you know, it was empty. It was derelict, quite derelict. We thought, okay, let's just transform the whole thing, just us two. But we gave ourselves like 6 days to paint and decorate and draw these, like, every room into a world, basically. So it was so much work and we kind of regretted it halfway through because even after painting all the walls and then the floors and the ceilings, then it was the artwork that went on top of it. And we got so ill after it, literally in the dust. And
you had tonsillitis, like we did.
With a fever.
Yeah, she got so ill because we literally spent 6 days transforming the whole place. So we painted the kitchen like top to toe, everywhere though, like the cooker, the ceiling, the floor. And that's in like 3 rooms we did that, I think.
And the hallway.
And the corridor. So it was a lot. And then at the end of the shoot, Amy was like, Harry made her like smoke this vape to have this cool effect. And she was like, my throat's really hurts. And we were just like, come on, Amy, like, come on, we have to get it done. And then by the end of the shoot, her throat was just like tonsillitis-ville. It was crazy.
No.
And then I had a fever, so I had the sweats on. But it's because we just like was working around the clock in obviously really dusty, painty.
It was grim.
For that 6 days, and I think it was just a bit like...
Suffering for your art.
It was something that we was really proud of because when you go in there, it was like a fun house.
Yeah. That's
well,
awesome.
the decorator that painted it, I think he thought it was haunted because it had like loads of Devil's Face lyrics all over the wall. So he was getting creeped out and thought he saw like shadows moving.
And so someone's just living in there now, are they? And it all looks normal again?
I think it's still getting redecorated. It's just, yeah.
But our designs
are gone.
Oh, what a shame. I love that it can be a moment in time, though.
Yeah, it's sad. We wanted to have like a launch party in there, but obviously we didn't have enough time and
the neighbours.
Done.
Yeah, neighbours. Neighbours always ruin everything, don't they?
Yep.
How do your neighbours enjoy your music making? Do you have any issues with that where you live?
I wear these headphones. I've been trying to wear these because the walls where I am are very thin. Like you hear them talk, like everybody.
No.
So I try and stay with these.
Yeah.
I don't really have an issue with neighbours.
Yeah. I used to have neighbours where I would be playing bass, just practising with a really little amp, honestly not being loud. And every single time they'd come and knock on the door and go, you've got to stop that noise, like any time of day.
Bass does rumble though, like wherever I've been,
nice.
it's been bass has been the biggest issue, but just because it's a rumbler.
Yeah. So where did you do? Because you've done some really cool online gigs. Wasn't there a festival gig you did that was it live streamed? Because I watched a bit of it afterwards, and I was just wondering where you did that.
Was it the VR Glastonbury one, or was it like the split screen one?
Oh no, you were all in the same room.
That was Glastonbury.
Yeah, and they like photoshopped us into Glastonbury.
Oh, that's cool.
So it was like the craziest experience watching it back, because it was like you had like avatars of people like in the VR headsets, but they can make their avatar, and I guess they saw us. I don't know if they saw us closer with the headset on stage.
Yeah, it's really interesting what people are doing at the moment with live music.
I love the creativity and how they're trying to, make that feeling of being at a festival. But
It is sad. I can't wait
miss it.
for it to be back up and running, mainly just to ensure the kind of survival of independent, venues, and also artists, especially the new up and coming ones who are not necessarily who make their bread and butter through doing gigs, and I think even though it's been nice for us to have us kind of sit back and just reflect and get on with writing, I think it is a little bit worrying, and hopefully things can somehow get back into the swing of things again.
Yeah, fingers crossed. Right, let me see what other questions I got. I asked you about your pedals. That was a no. That's fine. I asked you about your videos. What do you think are your best or most useful characteristics for the life you've chosen?
Oh, that's a good question.
Is this as people or as artists? Very different.
Oh, if it's different, I'd be interested to know what's different about it.
The best characteristics for this career path.
Is it more like career, or is it like just like at home with your cat?
Maybe for this career, what aspects of your personality is great for this career?
Yeah. Mine is stubbornness, for instance, I think.
Is that's the good thing?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's not necessarily good, but it's definitely the most useful characteristic that I think that I have. Stubbornness and an inability to know what time to stop working in the day. Just keep going and going and going.
That's a great one.
But it can be bad too.
I think we'd really know our vision, and again, I guess like stubbornness, we wouldn't get really swayed from what we envision from something. Could we really see it?
Yeah.
Trust our vision as well.
Yeah, we're very we trust in us.
Yeah, obviously we're
good.
open to work with people and see their ideas, but if we really believe that a certain idea, we'll have to see it through. Basically, we don't believe in us.
Compromise.
No, yeah,
it's not compromise. I think stubbornness is quite good. I also think a bit of fire is good.
Yeah. She says in the most relaxed possible tone.
I know, a bit of fire.
I'm really laid back, so I feel like that's good in terms of you have to travel a lot. It's quite stressful, so being laid back is quite useful.
Yeah, definitely. What's the worst thing that's happened to you as a band so far, and what's the best thing?
Probably Corona.
I think the worst, I think it's been great.
No, but all our tour, it was long, tours, festivals. Once you build up to be on we was going to play Glastonbury and do all the things that we wished we always wanted to play at these festivals.
And were you 2 weeks into your tour and then had to stop?
Yeah.
I'm so sorry that happened to you. That sucks. Because obviously we're more concerned about people's safety, obviously, we all are. But that still has a massive impact on you emotionally, surely. And, it's a plan. The album came out and then you tour it. That's just how it works.
I think that was the thing. And that's why probably people are worried about the next year, because they're writing these albums, but then you want to tour it. That's the reward. Yeah, you have the release of touring it and having fun. And not that it's not fun writing an album, but touring is so fun.
Well, it's where you get to see some other people, isn't it? That's normally quite nice.
It is a rush.
It's such a rush. And festivals is it's so good.
That is a rush. So, we're just reminiscing. Obviously, people can't see the visual, but you can just see us
Yeah, just they're looking into the distance.
Just how? Just you easily forget. People go to festivals and there is this crazy thing. God.
Well, so having gone with the negative first, sorry about that. What's the best thing that's happened to you as a band so far?
I think a few things this year has been quite good.
I think the best thing is probably key shows, maybe. When we played Hellfest, we played to 20,000 people, and it was insane. We'd never experienced that kind of level of adrenaline and rush. But I think it's hard to pick one moment because loads of moments, even if it's small or big, they all felt great in that moment also.
Yeah.
There's always like little pinnacle points where you think, that's created this knock-on effect and helps you keep going as a band, especially as you know, like when you're kind of doing things yourself, you rely on luck and opportunities and stuff. So when the right one comes along that gives you another lease of life, it's so essential, I think, because like I said, you rely on these things, you know, and it's about your hard work, and then the opportunity comes up, and then that's when you're luck. You make your own luck, but it comes obviously when it comes. You can't
absolutely
control it.
Yeah, and it's a lot about being ready for those opportunities, I think.
Yeah, so a lot of preparation, but yeah, we've had loads of little moments where we're like, oh yes, we really wanted this one and we got it, and little things like that, and they're small maybe to other people, but for us they mean quite a lot. So yeah.
Oh, so what? It doesn't matter what other people think. We're all the stars of our own movies, aren't we? So that's
exactly.
That's what I always try to remember. I wanted to ask about like targets and dreams, and I don't mean specific ones. I don't want you to tell me what your next target is or anything like that. But do you think in those terms? So you were saying that a few things had happened where you're like, oh, good, we got this one we really wanted to get. Is there a thing where you're intentional about this is what we could try for next, or let's try to get these?
Yeah. Oh, 100%. We live by that.
We manifest, we write letters, burn it.
Yeah, we've burnt letters. We've literally sat there being like, come on, please.
Yeah.
Because I think it's important to know your goals, because then you feel like you could be on this treadmill, just like what direction are you going. It's good to like have a goal, and then you really try and get it, and then you go up to the next thing. So yeah, we definitely always have a goal.
It's good to hear that, because I think, so this podcast is for people who love the arts. It's not for other musicians. Although, of course, if you're listening and you're a musician, I hope you enjoy it, of course. But it's, you know, but these secrets won't necessarily be secrets to you if you're listening and you're a musician, because you know that this stuff is part of it. But I think people who might come and watch you play on a festival stage will be like, I don't know how they got that gig. It wouldn't even cross their mind. They're just like, they got the gig. They're just there. This band are here. I watched them. They're brilliant. That's it, you know? Whereas, of course, there's a lot more. All the stuff that goes into that one performance even. So I just think it's interesting to show that to people a little bit without taking all of the fun and the magic out of it. But there is more to it than, oh, they're just there. Like, they had to get there. They had to write the songs.
Yeah, so much. And if you had a big festival coming up, you'll be thinking about that all week. You'll literally just be like, all right, it's coming. We're going to rehearse for it. We've got to drive through, like, sometimes it's like so far.
Yeah, like 13 hours.
Or get a flight to it and back the same night. Yeah. We flew to Spain once and back, and that just literally, it was so tiring. But you just do these crazy things, and then people do just think they just turn up on the stage and they disappear.
And I'm the queen of like getting a gig somewhere that's sort of drivable from Bristol. So I'll drive there in the day and then just drive all the way back at night afterwards, and I'm getting home at 4 a.m. or something. And I sometimes think, well, the audience are the ones who get to have loads of drinks and like have a lovely time.
Yes, that is a thing.
And I love playing, but it's not a sociable activity. It's I'm doing my thing, and then I have to get home because I can't afford to stay over.
No, it is like a job, because you have to do a good job. You probably have something the next day, so you can't actually. I mean, some bands have the fun, and this,
we don't.
We don't. We're just like, all right, just do the show, go home, get in bed, do another show. We're very like, if we're in like touring thing, we have to look after ourselves, especially because we like get ill as well.
If we like party,
we get
on a party flex, we will get ill. So we just don't do it. I know a lot of bands can really party on tour, and it's literally like a party for them, which works for some people. But for us, if we want to do a good show and make sure we're tight, it just can't happen.
Well, there's too much going on stage, isn't there? Like you're saying, that you're not singing to a backing track. You're doing everything.
No. Everything, so you have to really be on it.
Even like balancing, imagine being drunk trying to balance doing pedals, just fall over.
No, definitely not.
And we're lightweights as well.
Yeah. Well, if you don't drink loads, then I think that that's easy. Like I rarely drink, and I never drink at shows because I've got stuff to do, I've got gear to look after, I'm probably driving home afterwards, you know, all that stuff. I think there's just a myth of like half an hour in 1985 where everyone's like on it, drinking and doing all the drugs, and everything was fine because their handlers would deal with everything, their managers were there all the time. But independent artists like us, we don't have those people.
Yeah, and artists have to do so much for themselves, and I think it is a very different perspective, isn't it? Like I love going to festivals, like cool festivals, and being like a punter and just going to enjoy music and having a drink and just having like a relaxed kind of stance on it all. But when you play it, it's a different mentality. Like a lot of the time we don't have the time to see the bands that we love, and we're so gutted because a lot of the time we're like, oh my god, our favorite band's playing, can we see them? No. And if we want to see them, we'll have to do a little like detour or something, which does affect a schedule, you know, if we really want to see them that bad. So I think both have their good qualities, and you know, it's just a different experience playing to being a punter, but being a punter is the best.
Yeah. Welcome to the middle bit, where I say a massive, massive thank you to all of my correspondents. I created my own members club this year. It's kind of like a cross between a Patreon and a crowdfunding thing. I set it up to invite people into my musical world in a meaningful way, to offer member perks of real value, and to provide a space where we can all spend time with like-minded people. I recently posted out the first quarterly bundles of music, scenes and postcards. There's a monthly secret podcast and a super friendly forum where we share our favourite new music and chat about all sorts. It's lush. If you'd like to get a taste of the Correspondence Club, have a browse at penfriend.rocks, and there will always be a free tier because art is for everyone. Thank you so much to all the correspondents listening today. You're the best. Now, back to my chat with Amy and Georgia. When you're on tour for long periods of time, how do you deal with that? How do you stay healthy?
I think we just
Water.
keep warm as well. Like after the shows, you sweat loads, and then if you go outside, sweat goes cold and you get cold. So just change clothes.
We eat quite well as well.
Try to eat well. I think the first time we went on tours, we didn't eat well.
A lot.
No, but it was like if we toured around France, it was a lot of like baguettes, bread, croissants. But then we learned that we have to bring probably like rice or eat more salad. We'll just be like, this is great, it's loads of bread.
But the actual catering is amazing.
When you get to the venue, it's great.
The services, you know, obviously when you stop at services, there'll be bread there, or like obviously croissants, and you end up just munching on crisps all the time. But it's about kind of
knowing what to get for breakfast. Start your day and eat breakfast. Because we used to just be like, oh, I don't want breakfast, we'll just eat at the service station. But then there's not much food there. But then at the venues, as you said, they have the best food.
Yeah, which is really nice.
When I was living in London, I remember, like, you know, the Powell, the sandwich shop, right? It's like
Paul,
it's like a posh, but I think in France it's bowl. Anyway, but it's really, to me, like that's like the posh sandwich shop, right, in London.
Yeah.
As like a treat. And then you see it at the French service station and realise it's basically Subway. So that was an interesting thing.
Yeah, they have those everywhere.
Yeah, still nice though. It's the food is all better there.
Yeah, the food is definitely better. And warming up, I feel like the way to survive shows, especially when you've got like high energy shows, is to warm up, vocals, body, just make sure you're ready for that show. Otherwise you just don't last. Like I remember the first few tours we did and we didn't do that, and we'd come off stage literally in pain, whiplash on our necks, and you'd have some seizure, like some seized up quadricep and hamstrings, and it was never good. And then we learned that you have to do these things to do it like high energy. You can't just suddenly do nothing and then go into like full on and then keep doing that, because your body just ends up, it's like elastic band, not be stretched out, it just snaps.
Yeah, by this last tour we were literally like out of breath before we went on stage. Sometimes we'd be like, have we gone too far? Now we're just going to be tired. But it works the opposite way. You're actually more energized.
Yeah.
And it's so strange because my whole life, being a musician from a teenager, I was mocked for doing vocal warm-ups. Like there would always be some boy walking by going, ha, 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 and like joining in with the scales or something. And I'd be like, this is my instrument. This is an instrument.
Yeah, I think do forget that.
And they don't think that all the people they look up to don't warm up or something. They warm up.
Like you don't want to also annoy people because it is very loud. I'm always a bit like, oh God, but then you just have to do it, because if you don't, you're going to end up ruining your voice. So
I've often walked around, when there's no dressing room or anything, I'm just like walking around the nearest car park doing my scales like a weirdo, but so what? But that's what you're there to do, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
That's the thing. I've always find that really strange. The more I look into it as well, there's a lot of really interesting breathing courses you can do for singing as well, which I've started doing recently. And I'm just kicking myself for not realising this a lot sooner. But as long as you eventually realise it.
At least you know it now.
Yes. Well done for figuring that out earlier. Well done you. What is success to you, and do you feel like you've experienced any of it yet?
I think that goes with like the little wins. That feels like a success, because as you said, when you manifest and really want something, then you get it. You feel like, yes, like that's a success or that's an achievement. But we've definitely got goals that we want to keep going and reaching. So I think there's obviously different levels of success, but you do have to appreciate when you have those little moments of success, really say like, well done for yourself, and don't be like, oh, well, that's not the bigger success, because everything comes in stages. Basically, you have to appreciate the little wins and the big wins, otherwise you'll never feel happy because you'll always be chasing something.
That's very wise. And I think that if you have this very fixed idea of what success is,
exactly,
like if you reach that, what's next anyway? So you've done that thing, then what, you know?
Yeah, exactly. You always have to have little things, even if it's like writing in lockdown one day and you finish a song, that's a success. Or if you win an award, that's a success. I feel like everything's like measured as success.
So no one's trying to make it in this conversation, are they? Because I definitely left that behind a long, long, long time ago, if I ever even believed in that.
You know, it's all relative. Like, what's your make it? What's our make it? Do you know what I mean? Like everyone, and I think at the same time, it's good to have your goals, because you can, if you always look ahead, in some ways, you'll keep moving forward. I don't think it's good to get complacent either, but I also feel that it is about what G was saying, just you appreciate the small successes, but just keep going.
Yeah.
And if you can keep aiming for whatever you think, at least you're trying to get. Do you know what I mean? It's about always looking forward, moving forward. For me, I don't like standing still. Like, but it doesn't mean it means we're trying to be who we're trying to be.
Beyonce.
I don't know, or, you know, whatever. But yeah, don't get too comfortable. Keep setting things, goals ahead, and then keep moving forward, and just appreciate what's around you as you move forward in your journey.
Yeah, that's really good.
That bit too. Like, don't get too complacent now.
I like that. And since you keep mentioning her, I do think that a Nova Twins Beyonce collab would be pretty amazing. So if you could maybe put that into your manifestation list, it would make me very happy.
Oh yeah, that was a lot of manifesting. It'll take a while, but we're on it.
Keep burning those letters.
We could probably, I don't know, a bush to make that happen.
If you could thank one person in your life, who would that be?
I just think maybe not one, but like family.
Yeah, definitely. Like my mum and dad, they always supported us, helped us, drove us to like a billion gigs, helped lift gear.
That's awesome that they did that for you.
Yeah, super supportive.
Yeah, they're like musicians themselves, so they're like,
yeah, they get it.
Super get it, and they're just like, yeah, just do what you need to do and just fucking do it.
Amazing. So what's it like growing up with musicians as parents then? Because I didn't have that. And I sometimes think to have a bit of nurturing in music earlier on would have been really helpful to me as a younger woman. So how is that?
I think it was great because obviously some parents could be like, no, go and study something that you don't want to do. But when I was just like, I just want to do music, they were just like, great. Fab, that's like what we always dreamed of. Go and like, you know, don't go to uni. Obviously, yeah, I don't know if they felt like that, but I didn't go to uni, but it wasn't like a thing. I was just like, sure, be in the band. Sure. So it was very just like freeing, and it just made us, and they'll just be like, you know, you don't have to be like anyone else, just be yourself, create crazy music. It was very just like, do what you guys want to do. And I think that also was a good kind of advice, because then we just made music how we wanted to make. We didn't try and make music what was out at the time. We just made what made us happy. So it was good in that sense.
I didn't actually have like parents that listened to in music, but they were always very supportive in terms of like, my aunt was always the one to be like, from a really young age, Amy, if you want to sing, go and do it. Do you know what I mean? And like, my mum was very just do what makes you feel happy. So I've just always had
the support
of like, just do what makes you happy, follow your goals, your dreams, and that's fine with me.
That's an amazing gift to give to a child, don't you think?
Yeah, it's the best because you don't feel pressured. And I understand, like, with love, a lot of parents want the best for their child, you know, and I completely understand that. But at the same time, you have to let someone just live how they want to live.
Be what they were meant to be.
Yeah, because you will stunt people's growth that way. And especially, I think when you suppress creatives, it's so dangerous mentally. Like, I've seen so many terrible, like, just things happen to people who didn't get that outlet that they would have needed for like their own personal therapy. And I think a lot of people create and do that. you know what I mean? You kind of give yourself that therapy. It's so important. So when it gets suppressed, it's quite dangerous, I think. So yeah, I feel like don't suppress creative children. Just don't
suppress your kids.
Don't suppress your kids.
Album 2 from Nova Twins, don't suppress your kids.
Yeah, like with children or something. We can't give out parent advice, but
No. That's lovely to hear you had that support though.
Yeah.
That's really cool. And so was there a defining moment in each of your lives when you realised that music was all you wanted to do? Can you remember what that moment was, or was it always there?
I think mine was always there. Even a kid, I used to watch Disney, and I used to just be singing along so much. Like, it was just such a thing. Like, I just loved to sing. That was just my thing. Sing. And yeah, I've always just wanted to do it.
Yeah, same. Just always wanted to do it. There's always like music in the house, so just always playing music.
I feel the same. And my starter bands were so strange. It's such a strange mix because it was what was in the house, but it was like Dolly Parton, ABBA, like old records with my parents, Beatles' White Album, and ELO. And like, I don't sound like any of those things, obviously, and you don't sound like a Disney princess, no offence, you know. And if you're going for that, it's not quite working at the moment, maybe. Yeah, I have the same answer. I think that it was always there. I don't remember a moment. I remember the first moment I told people I was going to be a musician. When I started to be brave enough to define that in a word. But it was always, I'm going to be a singer. So from like maybe 12, 13, I'm going to be a singer. Then I was going to write songs. And then I started playing bass because, you know, the bassist didn't show up to the band that I was going to sing in, that old chestnut. Yeah. And then it was guitar to accompany myself solo. So it was all just a graduation from wanting to have that release of therapy, personal therapy, writing songs, expressing myself, and then not really knowing what to do other than to accompany myself and just then start making records. So, yeah, it's interesting to hear that.
It's great that you picked up an instrument and didn't rely on someone else to play it also, because the independence is just like what you need. So
yeah, I think so. What's inspiring you at the moment outside of music? So do you read books? Do you listen to podcasts? Do you watch films? Is that kind of, because you're very visual artists, does that stuff, are you like little magpies going around gathering things together and then sort of expressing it through your work?
We like to sew.
I guess movies as well. Movies. Like, yeah, movies. I don't know, lockdown. I feel like lockdown itself was quite inspiring, to be honest, because it really just forced you to just get stuff done and be in your own thing and not really look outside.
And it goes to show what you actually do in your spare time. Like, you had loads of spare time in lockdown, but it was mainly like, again, it was just music, delving in deeper into our own crafts and maybe practicing things that we wouldn't normally get time to practice, baking, watching movies, spending quality time with like family and stuff. And I think they were just the things we naturally did in lockdown, you know. Conversation, because I think when you're a musician, you always running at it. So you go on tour and you're always moving, you're always traveling, and you don't actually get time to spend with the people that are important to you. So, you know, you get to just visit people a bit more, and, you know, it's been good in that way, getting back to basics.
And as we move through it, it's interesting because, like, when it started, it seemed like, well, it was a shock, obviously. It's kind of like the stages of grief, I think. It's kind of like shock and anger and, like, confusion and all of that stuff. But now we're, 4 months in? And I don't know how far things have really progressed for people like us who would normally be booking tours or being on tour or doing lots of things where we'd be going out of our house. I'm not foreseeing any of that being able to happen until at least next year, you know, probably, if we're honest about it.
Yeah, definitely.
So how do you see the next few months going for you? What do you have plans of how to spend your time or anything like that?
I think just working towards the plan for next year, because this year is kind of just like a holding year, I guess. Get all your assets in check, catch up with yourself, and then just hit it for 2021. So you're just preparing for the reckoning to come back. So just get all your stuff in line to be able to tour again. So, you know, make the set how you want it to be, write 6 songs ready to record, get in tune with yourself, so you're just ready to take on 21 with full force, because, you know, this year was very laid back, so next year's going to be high rev, I'm hoping.
Yeah, that's great. It's great to hear. For anyone who's listening who hasn't heard your music before, shame on you. But which 3 pieces of your own work would you recommend as a gateway for these new listeners?
Taxi.
Yeah, definitely Taxi, and watch the video.
Maybe Vortex and Playfair.
Yeah, Vortex and Playfair and Taxi. Those are, of the new album, and yeah, they make us feel good. Undertaker's so fun to play live as well.
Yeah.
But I'd recommend Playfair, Taxi and Vortex.
Very cool. And which 3 other artists should we all be listening to?
Listen to
Fever, Free. Oh, Fuck You, Pay Us.
Fever 333. Fuck You, Pay Us is a great one. Their songs are on Bandcamp, so if you can't find them on Spotify, go to Bandcamp. And Kid Capici.
Ah, Kid Capici. My records are mastered by one of Kid Capici's dads.
Oh, Dick.
Oh, he did ours too.
Oh, really? No way. Yay.
Yeah.
I love that everyone knows Dick Beaton. He's brilliant. He's such a nice man.
He knows everyone we've met, he's mastered their stuff.
Yeah. I went out to his studio in Hastings to listen to my last album in 2018.
Oh my God.
No, when did I get it mastered? It probably was 2018. Because he's got the best, obviously, he's a mastering engineer. He's got the best speakers. It will never sound as good as it did when I sat in his studio.
We sat in that chair and had that experience.
I did.
Yeah.
It's
Studio.
so good. Shout out to Dick Beaton. What a man.
Yeah.
Feeling good about the chat?
Yeah, great questions. Don't have anything else to add. I feel like we covered it.
All right, well, look, I'm going to let you go then, because I think we've had a really nice chat. Thank you so much for joining me today. It's been such an interesting conversation.
Oh, thanks so much.
I'm looking forward to seeing this new video, and everyone should listen to your record.
Thank you.
Thank you. It was lovely chatting to you.
Massive thanks to Nova Twins for talking to me. You can get their debut album Who Are the Girls right now from wherever you get your music. I've created a deluxe show notes page at penfriend.rocks/Nova Twins, which has links to their music, videos and everything else we talked about, plus easy access to those free Penfriend songs I mentioned earlier. If you enjoyed this podcast, please join me for future episodes by clicking subscribe. Your ratings and reviews also help my show find new listeners, so they're very much appreciated too. This episode was produced by me, with editing by Silent Outburst Productions. All the music was created by yours truly. As I said earlier, I'm taking a very short podcasting break so I can finish my album, so I'll be back with you on Wednesday the 7th of October to kick off Series 2. In the meantime, please enjoy exploring the Attention Engineer back catalogue, and I'll speak to you soon. Take care.